Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. Commander Lendad here with another video on DC Legends. And today I'm actually going to do very little talking because I'm actually going to let the developing team behind DC Legends do the talking. As you guys know, update 1.10 went live last night, and also there's a podcast, and I know some of you are not part of the Reddit or the Facebook group, so you may not be aware that there is a podcast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let him do all the talking, and I'm going to be doing some gameplay footage on top of it so that you guys can look at the footage as you listen to them, because there are some very, very exciting news in the horizon for DC Legends. So without further ado, here are the guys from DC Legends, and I'll catch you guys again at the end of the video.
Hello and welcome. This is DC Legends podcast number 3. And in this podcast, we're going to talk about new content for March. Is that right?
Yep, that is the plan.
All right. With me today, we have Sean and Larry. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Larry. I do system design on DCL, and mostly I work with character and ability design.
And unfortunately, we don't have a really good nickname for Larry yet, whether he's like Evil Mastermind or Combat Guru. We're still working on it.
He's the Combat Guru this podcast.
Well, no, I feel like Larry deserves his own name because Larry is really responsible for a lot of the deep strategy in the game around the character design.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, anytime I have a question about like kind of that character design or anything like that, it's Larry. It's like, Larry, why'd you do this?
Larry, why are you doing this? Why did you make Camo? Come on.
The most common question I receive.
Really? Why did you make Camo?
We love Camo. I'm just saying right now, Camo is the best.
He synergizes really well with certain characters. And
with everybody.
Maybe
with everyone.
Everybody.
Yeah. You know, an eternal dot on the other team. I feel like that can only be useful in every situation.
It possibly can. Cool. So, we're going to be talking about the new content coming in March. And, it's almost like without further ado, we should announce who those characters are.
It's bubbling up.
It's bubbling up. Their waves of March are coming in.
The tides are rolling in. Can you guess the theme?
It's Aquaman, right?
It is Aquaman.
So we have Aquaman, Mera, and Siren coming to DC Legends in March.
Indeed.
Yeah? So, we should talk about Aquaman because, he has that storied history of always being left behind at the Hall of Justice.
Aquaman, he gets a bad rap sometimes,
He does.
Just because the man can talk to fish does not mean you should underestimate him.
And dolphins. And
dolphins and squid and pretty much anything.
Cthulhu?
Possibly. Aquaman is a core Justice League member.
He really is.
There was a lot of people that have been calling for him, and we felt we had to get Aquaman into the game. And we definitely wanted to play to sort of the more modern version of Aquaman, where he is the king of Atlantis.
Yeah.
Here's a guy who he's a little bit King Arthur, right? Where he's the lost king who discovers his kingdom. And he has to take up the throne and deal with all the strife and conflict. And, he is a little bit of a badass. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I think that plays into the character design for this one, right? Like, his heroic is a little bit more surfer boy, but isn't his legendary kind of a bit more edgy?
Well, we have the legendary design of him is taking a nod that's equal parts like the Aquaman that got a little grizzled when he lost his hand, and it's a little more King Arthur, as well as the Aquaman movie and Jason Momoa. Aquaman has a range of kind of badassness that he can do.
He's got that chip on his shoulder, and he has something to prove a little bit.
He's got a big crown that he has to wear.
That's true. Cool. So, what kind of abilities are we looking at with this Aquaman? Like, what's going to make him unique to play as?
Well, with the Aquaman family and characters, they really tried to capture the essence of their home, Atlantis, underwater, and trying to represent water through our existing mechanics. We decided to go with bleeds and mends. So mends kind of represent the healing factor of water on your team, while bleeds are kind of like when an enemy team is underwater, they are slowly taking damage. And so we tried to synergize all the upcoming characters with these two mechanics. We have Aquaman, who plays well with both, able to have increased effectiveness if enemies are bleeding and if he is mending. And then Mera is the mend master, and Siren is specializing in bleeds.
That's pretty awesome. Cool. So they're gonna synergize well with what kind of teams do you think?
Primarily chemo. We're hoping that everyone plays chemo with all three of these characters, maybe multiple if possible. But really, I mean, we're trying to fill out some compositions that were a little lacking in characters for the roster early on. So we had like a bleed team, which I think a lot of people realize that like Cheetah is the only leader that can really help with bleeds, and then there were a few other characters, Chemo and Joker, that added bleeds,
Yeah,
along with a men team, which was only
like Swamp
Bane.
Thing.
Yeah, Swamp Thing, Bane, Sinestro C, really hard to get.
Yeah.
So yeah, trying to fill those out so you can have like a full team to play whatever way you want.
Medfill is also in that right now.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Phil too.
Well, and one other thing to note, right, is that we kind of recognize that we want to have a balance of different affinity types, the physical,
That's a great
energy, mystical. And with the Aqua family here,
Aquafam.
Aquafam, as Joel likes to call them, they're all mystical characters. And so we have, Aquaman is a strong tank-like bruiser, whereas Mira is more of a controller, healer type, and then Siren is a striker, damage dealer.
This is really going to help round out the roster in a way to where now that it's a little bit more competitive, on the PvP front, and you can throw out some of these really a lot stronger mystical characters.
Yeah, if you want to play the affinity matching game of like trying to get your advantage that way, you absolutely can.
That's super cool. One of the other cool things of note, aren't the Aqua Fam the first ones to have a bunch of like, special effects with their abilities?
Well, I think we always try and make all the characters as special effects possible as we can, but the underwater theme that we have going with these characters lets us do a lot of stuff. I mean, if you go to Mira and Siren, so these are characters that maybe not everybody is as familiar with. Mira is she's from basically a different underwater civilization, and she was raised to be an assassin. She wanted to go after Aquaman and kill him as the king of Atlantis, but she fell in love with him, and so then they eventually got married. And then Siren is her twin sister, and both of them have these like magical powers that allow them to create constructs out of water. They can like kind of make hard water objects and manipulate
That's
everything.
cool.
So we've got lots of water manipulation and storm kind of powers and this sort of thing with
So
all
like
of them.
particle effects.
Exactly. If you want to get all technical there, Joel, it's particle
It's
effects.
particle effects. Just wanted to make that clear. So, that's a great point. We should talk a little bit about Mira. Like, she, came from as an assassin to kill Aquaman. And in a way, like, she wasn't even destined to like fall in love with him, but she did.
She did.
Like,
she did.
so what else is significant about Mira?
Well, you got to remember that Mira, being trained as she was, she's a pretty tough lady herself, and she's a little bit of an outsider to Atlantis, but she stands by her guy. We tried to get that in the gameplay, like Larry was saying, where Mira has the ability to kind of constantly be, mending and buffing up Aquaman, which, Aquaman as the king of Atlantis and kind of the lord of underwater, he's really tough and strong and enduring. So the two of them together can work really well as kind of this husband and wife team.
That's pretty cool. So you think that we're going to see a lot of Aquaman Mira teams come together and,
Yeah. I mean, I think also a new little combat bit that we're adding to the game with the Aqua family is the idea of critical immunity. And I know a lot of our elder players will be familiar with how quickly a team can get destroyed just by like lucky crits at the beginning of a match. And so by adding this effect, the status effect really that Aquaman can place on his entire team, which will make them all immune to being critically hit by damage for a certain number of turns. And so that can really extend the length of battle and really add more strategic depth to our game.
Yeah, I think you're going to see Aquaman as the king of your team quite a bit, rallying the troops.
That's impressive. He's going to really, we're going to see him as the leader in a lot of PvP teams, I think.
That's what we're hoping, yes.
Awesome. So, any other like really good, strong suggestions for like a person who wants to play with Mira?
So Mira has a super strong like single target mend, and they can put 6 to 8 mends on a single teammate. But mends, of course, aren't really as useful if you're getting blown up, and so having some sort of survivability on our team will greatly help in the effectiveness of using Mira on your team.
Cool. So that kind of like slow burn of a heal, you know.
Yeah, like you keep her alive 2-3 turns, and then you got like 15 plus mends on your team, and it's just everyone's staying alive, but you got to get to that point, that threshold.
Cool. That's great. So, you know, talking about Mira, we also have to talk about Siren, who is kind of the twin sister of Mira. Didn't go the whole fall in love route.
Yeah, she's not so much the soft and fuzzy sort now. She's a little more hard edged.
She's hard edged, and you know, she doesn't like either of them, does she?
Not a big fan. There's a little bit of falling out among the sisters, but you can play with them on the team. That is allowed.
Cool. So she's kind of the evil black sheep of the family, and you know, she kind of shows it in her gameplay, right?
Yeah, so we kind of wanted to represent how Siren's like a dark reflection of Mira. While Mira has like a very strong single target mend, Siren has very strong single target bleed. Mira has an ability, her super, where she does more damage for how many mends on our team. Siren has one. The reflection of that for how many bleeds are on the enemy team. And so we kind of wanted their gameplay to be the reverse of one another.
It's kind of like a reflection in a way, and you know, that's really interesting. Like, do you find that she's gonna play well with like teams with like Kimo and
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cheetah?
Yes, yeah. We're kind of hoping that, we built her more around like playing off other people's bleeds as opposed to like the current bleeders that can just do everything by themselves. And so she'll work really well as like a support bleeder, but is really effective in this way. Mostly represented in her basic, which doesn't apply any bleeds unless there's already a bleed on the target, but if there is, then it adds a substantial amount for a basic.
That's really cool. You know, one thing that comes to mind is roughly how much damage is dealt with a bleed, or how much energy is, you know, restored with a mend.
Oh, so this is actually a set amount. Men's always heal for 3% of the total health of a character every time they tick. Bleeds do 3% of their total life as damage. So.
This is a great point, and I think you know, having that understanding from a player's point of view, like, okay, like I have 8, you know, mins going on. That's like a boodle of health being regenerated.
And these are true heals and true damage effects, and so they're unaffected by mitigating effects.
Super cool. Any other great points that you want to bring up with Siren today?
No, I mean, that's pretty much the entirety of her kit. She's just all about bleeds, all about slow, sadistic damage done to the enemy team.
Slow burn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you find that you're facing Mira and suddenly you find yourself with 10 bleeds on one of your heroes, this is where you're going to be wanting somebody who has a really strong purge.
Oh, yeah.
Because when that thing ticks over, it's going to be painful.
Like a Dr. Fate, for instance. I mean, he's like one of the best in the game at doing this.
Yeah.
But, man, that's tough.
Yeah, Dr. Fate's also so hard to get.
He is tough to get. Who would you recommend, like, on the easier side to get?
For purging?
Yeah.
Well, Zatanna is always, like, the go-to, right?
Zatanna is the go-to, isn't she?
Yeah, so, like, 2 per teammate. I guess this will be less effective against Siren, though, as she's
going to put a massive amount. Yeah. So basically, you got to go after, like, a Dr. Fate kind of character where he can
single
do
target purge. Batman C, maybe.
Batman C.
World's Greatest Detective Batman. Yeah, he's a good option there, too.
Yeah. Man, this is going to be tough. It's going to be good.
Yeah.
It'll be good to see.
Hoping to change it up a bit.
Cool. So, you know, we wanted to bring in a new segment to, you know, the podcast as we, you know, get a lot of questions from our fans. And so what better than to have a listener question segment in our podcast? So I'd like to toss out some questions that were asked from our community and see what kind of answers we get. So Midnight Q asked, is there a potential for a survivor mode where we can take in our strongest or favorite team and just fight battle after battle until we lose, and we can rank or get prizes depending on how well we do?
Well, I think that's a really good idea. It's a really good game mode. And one of the things that we're actively looking at right now is what kinds of new things do we want to add to the game? Especially the game has been out since November. We know that teams are getting fuller, and we want people to be able to have different things that they can do with their different teams and be able to like show the value of having invested in them. So, keep your eyes tuned. There's lots of new stuff that is going to be coming, and we are actively planning these kinds of new things to do with your teams and see how far you can go with them.
Very cool. So another great question, CJD0721 asks, is that like a clone trooper?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Wrong IP, though.
Wrong IP. Is there a round table process in which you decide which version of a particular character you use? And if so, can you discuss the thought process?
Actually, the way this works is Larry, he strong arms me and he twists my arm until he gets his favorite hero in the game, and that's why we have Kemo. No, I'm kidding.
I always get what I want.
So the way we work it is there's a lot of factors that we look at and to like come up with characters. I mean, the most important thing, right, is that we have to make sure that we're true to these characters. So we always sort of start with the idea of who is Aquaman? What is he about? What do we want to emphasize about his character? Because you can make gameplay out of anything, but this is DC Comics. It's like you want Batman to feel like Batman, Superman to feel like Superman, this sort of thing. So we start with that idea, but then we have to translate who they are into gameplay. And so then there's a lot of back and forth on the team. Larry tends to be the guy who is, in the hot seat for a lot of this, but he's always like looking and talking to different people on the team. There's a process that goes on where we work collaboratively and then we work individually and kind of do back and forth to come up with the best stuff.
Yeah, there are a lot of passionate DC fans on the team here, and so I'm not ever going to be able to know enough lore and fictional relevance to really do it all on my own. So getting input from everyone here is definitely part of the process.
Yeah, and we always feel like we hit the sweet spot where we get something a character that feels like true to who they are as a hero or a villain, but then has like some great, interesting gameplay associated with them.
A little bit of flavor involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's one thing I could really appreciate. Like, the characters feel like how they should play. Like, World's Greatest Detective Batman, feels in the ballpark of what World's Greatest Detective would be like.
I think if you're playing Flash and he doesn't seem like the fastest man alive, then you're not paying attention.
This is also a great point. Cool. So, Sagacious asks, how is each month's theme decided? It's gone from Suicide Squad to Green Lanterns to Batman. So, how do we decide that?
Well, I think you got to remember that DC is a huge, vast universe, right? We have all these different, characters. We've got, aliens and robots and metahumans and, skilled people and everything. So we try and draw on all these different areas. We look at what's happening in the DC universe, what's going on in the broader context of everything. Is there something that's interesting happening? We look at what are the fans asking for. What are people posting on Reddit or on our forums or this sort of thing. And we think about who are the heroes that we want to see. Who are the cool new characters, and try and come up with something that makes sense. And sometimes the themes might be something like, the Bat Family, or everybody knows Batman. But we also want to make sure that we explore the Green Lantern Corps and some of the other, there's Superman, there's Wonder Woman, there's all these heroes. And there's lots of different ways you can look at this. You've got a lot of strong feminine characters in this world, in this universe that we want to use. We've got characters from outer space, all the different kinds of versions of this stuff. So
it's pretty vast.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover. I mean, the problem is we just cannot do it fast enough. Believe me, if we could do 100 characters a month, I would.
I mean, at 3 a month, you really gotta hone in on that theme of what characters make sense to introduce and then go with it.
Yeah, and we can't bring everybody out at once. Believe me, we'd like to, but we hear all the things that people are asking for, and we do pay attention to that. And we have a vast list of things that we're trying to knock off month by month. So if your favorite character isn't in the next month, please hang around, and they're probably coming.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get through it all, hopefully.
Well, we plan to be
Eventually.
here for like 100 years, so that is just about enough time to get through the entire
Just
DC
about.
roster.
Very cool. I mean, who would be your guy that you would bring in? If, like, no holds barred.
Wow, that's a big question, Joel, because there's so many characters and there's so many new ones. Booster Gold, no. Booster Gold is some people love
He
him.
is,
He's a polarizing character. Some people love him because he's lovable, and some people hate him because he's obnoxious. But he's awesome.
yeah.
There's a lot of great stuff.
It's kind of hard to tell, huh? Yeah. Cool. So one last question that we got from Nightwing Mike asks, "What about Nightwing?"
Oh gosh, we haven't thought about that one at all. Yeah, actually, Nightwing is he's a character that we definitely have on our radar. I won't say exactly when he's going to come out quite yet, but we do have him planned upcoming. Like I said, most characters that you're thinking about, we are probably planning somewhere down the road. It becomes a question of like when our schedules line up and
Yeah.
these sorts of things. I don't know how much time have you spent thinking about his abilities, Larry? Because you got to think about what's going to happen when we have the all Robin team with like Damian Wayne, Red Hood, Nightwing,
Oh boy,
Red Robin.
Yeah, how it'll fit into the Bat team.
that would be interesting.
Yeah. All synergizing with Batman on their team. More Batman on your team, the stronger the Robins are. More Robins, the stronger the Batman are.
See, I think this could
Huh.
work. Well, and we could do that, and we could have a bunch of Batgirls also. There's been there's Stephanie
There
Brown
is a couple.
Batgirl and Cassandra Cain Batgirl, and
There's so many bats.
so many things we can do. I mean,
Not enough slots on the team.
I tell you, like this is the problem.
It's like
Again,
Nightfall all over again.
There's just so many things to do. We gotta. I'm Joel. I'm sorry, we have to cut the podcast short because we gotta go make these characters right now.
Well,
kidding.
Well, that was the last question that we had on the list, but that's a great point. There is so many characters, even within like the all the Robins and all of the Batwomans. It's
You know what we should do, Joel? Is we should put a little survey up on our forums to get people to post like, hey, what is your favorite character? What character do you want us to make next?
I bet you, even if we did that, it would come out pretty skewed, like all over the place.
I'm sure it would, but it would be fun anyway.
But Booster Gold would win.
Booster, of course. It's all about Booster Gold, actually.
I
Still
mean,
rooting for John Constantine.
John Constantine, he would be super cool, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Think about how his gameplay would be.
Oh, I think Constantine is great. Constantine, Justice League
Some
Dark.
demons or something.
Yeah. He's got something new for him.
Cool. That pretty much wraps up our podcast this time. We talked about a lot of great stuff and what's coming in March. So hope all the listeners stick around and play, March's content. A lot of Aquaman, a lot of bubbles. Bubbling up.
It's going to be good stuff. And, if you get Aquaman to Legendary, you get a free seahorse that you can ride. No, I'm kidding.
Disclaimer, no real seahorse.
No real seahorses were harmed in the making of Aquaman or Mira. I just want to say that.
Cool. So it's been a pleasure. Thanks again for stopping by, Larry and Sean.
Thanks for having us.
All right.
So there you have it, guys. Some very exciting news for DC Legends coming out in March. The Aquafam is going to be here. Like the guys said, Aquaman and his family will be in the game with some great abilities, new affinities, and also bleeds, mends, and whatnot. Very, very cool stuff. Anyway, guys, first of all, I want to thank Ragin for allowing me to use the audio of the podcast here on my channel. Thank you so much, and thank you to the guys for putting the podcast together. What do you guys think? Are you excited about the changes? Are you excited about Aquaman? What do you think it's going to mean to the game in general? Is the meta going to change? Are we going to finally see the meta switch from physical to mystic? So let me know in the comment section below what you think about this. And if you are new to the channel, feel free to subscribe so that you don't miss out on all the great content I'll be bringing you in the days ahead. And also, guys, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to give it a thumbs up because that helps out the channel a great deal. And if you would like to support the creation of more videos like this one, feel free to head down to the description below and click on the link to my PayPal tips jar. And as always, guys, have a fantastic rest of your day and stay legendary.